All right then, welcome,
Hello.
welcome to this our first episode of the Shenanigans podcast, where we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff in just a few couple of minutes, probably hours. Who know? This is the first episode. We can do whatever we want. And our guest today is Mr. Nurul Habaib, or called my friend Lulu. What's up, Lulu?
Hello. Hi from Glasgow. It's cool to be here. Lovely ambience and nice to have you as my host.
Yeah, I'm gonna love Michigan. Well,
Yeah.
it's lasting, but yeah, it's cool. Yeah, we're just gonna have a lot of fun times because we're gonna talk about climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gonna size up. Yeah. Now I'm gonna thank for all Sustain Story for actually, helping me to suffice this kind of research and stuff. Yeah, you can just go to that store and buy some eco-friendly stuff there. Yeah, it's fun. All right, let's cut to the chase. So we're talking about climate change. So Lulu, you've been
Yeah.
in Glasgow, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are now. And the fact that there's already a lot of shenanigans in Glasgow for the past couple of weeks, like COP26. What do you think about that? I mean, are you actually in part of that actions, or you agree? What's your opinion about it?
Well, to be honest, I experienced both of the side of the COP26. Either it's on the green zone where there are lots of people trying to offer their green initiatives or discussion of academias and law professors in terms of tackling climate change issues through regulations and policies. But I also, in the same time, do synergize with people in the grassroots and also civil society to do a big campaign called Global Day of Action. We do it with more than 100,000 people marching around to the venue of COP26 in order to ensure that our voice is heard, and because we are the one that's going to be affected by climate change then, and especially that they are talking and formulating policies that definitely will give an effect to us. So we have to ensure that it is rational enough to be implemented in our society itself. So I think that it's quite complicated, but at the same time, I'm very immersed by the situation out there.
Interesting. So, I mean, yeah, this whole in Glasgow thing is that, yeah, minus 1.5 degrees Celsius policies and all that. Like, what do you think that, what kind of policies that actually really helpful to be able to, I don't know, probably applicate it to other states or countries? What do you think about that? Like, what policies they should make?
Yeah, I think that's actually very when we're talking about the climate change and all the world class negotiations, which always trying to maintain that 1.5 degrees, limiting the temperature into 1.5 degrees. It's definitely sounds so ambitious, but I'm not sure probably that would be I know either the policies are capable enough to reach that aim. However, I think that one of the things we shall fix first is the current perception of community regarding the climate change itself, perception of the society regarding the climate change, because some of them are still skeptical enough to accept that climate change is real and going around in roaming around them and would create an adverse impact on the environment and their life itself. So I think what we need to do firstly is first of all, we have to reach out those indigenous people who have been endangered due to many kinds of exploitation and extraction activities that endangering their site, and also making them feel more vulnerable. And the second is what we need to do is to create a climate literacy or environmental literacy policies, which that would reach younger people in terms of like ensuring they would have that awareness of being aware of climate change, and to ensure that they know their rights and their responsibilities as the present and future generations. So I think that the reform and the system change from grassroots is needed before we are going to formulate a policies that gives such a high ambition in an international scale.
Ah, interesting take on that. And well, talking about, you know, carbon emission and all. Hey, let's talk about one of my neighbors in Midwest, which is Boston. Hey, Boston. And apparently, the mayor actually, according to Boston.gov, that they planning to reducing emission. While carbon-free Boston is the initiative to become carbon neutral by 2015. Isn't that great? Even though we're about like 49 years old back then,
Yeah.
we gotta be. Well, yeah, progress is progress. Not gonna lie, it's gonna be progress. Well, as you can know that global warming is causing our climate change, and there's tons of reports that showing we're heading toward extreme climate changes unless people act now, both government and people itself. You know, because government can't run without people, and the people can't run themselves without proper government. And they got a lot of tons of climate action plan back from 2019 till this day. Okay, it's really good. Like they trying to make in the buildings transitioning to zero net carbon new construction, planning to develop carbon targets to improve existing buildings over time, transportation. They're putting up in place like Go Boston 2030 and supporting the adoption of zero emission vehicles. Ooh, interesting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
They also want to make the energy supply cleaner and more resilient, planning to reduce the environmental impact of consumption by the Bostonians. So, what's your takes on that?
Um, what I think about it, it's actually fascinating to see how such a state really have that high ambition and commitment, and how to say, I mean, like actualizing it into particular policies and projects. But the main challenges that might be the obstacles in terms of this all sets of policies and initiatives is how are they going to ensure that this could be optimally implemented? How are they going to ensure that this is not just a greenwashed initiatives? And due to the fact that there are lots of countries currently, especially for example like Indonesia, let's just say like Indonesia have committed and pledge commitment to phase out its coal power plant by 2040, or they try to be a net zero sink carbon emission by 2030, but in the implementation it's very limited. The effect and also the realization is not linear with what they have already pledged for. So it's quite I'm not gonna say that it's a utopia, but it will be very challenging. But if they manage to successfully accomplish that, that would be a very good best practices that could be also how to say, that could be also taken as an example by other countries as well.
Well, that's really interesting. I'm gonna intrigue, not gonna lie. That's a great take on that. And the fact that actually the mayor, currently the Michelle Wu, she actually planned this back in her election. And wow, there's a lot of stuff that she actually put before she even take the office, like climate justice and implementing a Boston Green New Deal and just recovery. Wow, there's a lot of stuff to be talking about. But yeah, we're short on time, but we'll talk about it later on. All right, speaking of Indonesia, hmm, Some Indonesian cities actually have, well, for climate action. But what do you think about like what is their true actions? Do they actually took part on this climate action change? Do they have
Yeah,
plans?
yeah. I already mentioned that before when we talk about the Boston policy, and I already mentioned a little bit about Indonesia regarding their commitment pledge to
No, I mean
phase
like
out.
in terms of like what policies that actually they already implemented.
Yeah. This is actually kind of intriguing because um back at the COP26, I attended one session directly with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia. At the time, she presented about that net zero carbon sink commitment that they've already put as their nationally distributed commitment to be implemented in 2030. But it's quite intriguing because it's not, in reality, it's not the effort in ensuring that they will stop doing deforestation and also stop doing any kind of things that contributes into higher emission is like contradicts to their pledges, contradicts to their commitments. For example, we have known that peatlands and also forests is one of the carbon sinks that have been recognized by Kyoto Protocol. And after that, although the Indonesian government, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, already said about we committed to be a net zero sink country by 2030, but in fact, the exploitation project and also extraction project still goes on, and they give a legalization to justify and legitimize what all the cooperation and destructive environment doing on currently, especially in terms of like government-owned project or national strategic program, which are really focusing on economic development and also because like our president's agenda is not about the environment. So what do we cannot, I mean, like we cannot put a high hope to ensure that our president would put the agenda of protecting the environment in the very first place. So and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but in the rational way of thinking, the policies is definitely not in line with the implementation itself. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and the fact that I think for me that based on my further research about Indonesian government, I think they actually didn't put much emphasis on this type of plan, like climate change. I think they're just like, you know what, I'm gonna do it later, but yeah, I'm just gonna say I pledge to it. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's definitely the problem, and the fact that we're actually the top three plastic waste provider, and is actually saying something about that. Like, wow, what's your take on that? Like,
exactly. What I think about that is actually, I think that especially in terms of like reducing plastic pollution, that this is not only where if this kind of thing goes very serious, it will create a transboundary environmental impact. I think that would definitely disadvantage the position of Indonesia in the international world. But what I think, what the absence of their policies, even though that they have already ambitions so high, for example, like to reduce plastic waste, to reduce the use of plastic, to campaign for reduce, reuse, recycle, but they have that lack on how they can manage to implement their policies in a top-down scenario. How are they going to
I
adapt that
see.
policy in local, in regional, and even grassroots? And how are they going to build synergy with with the small medium enterprises, which are giving that kind of which socialize a friendly environment, an environmentally friendly way craze of buying certain things that you always buy in your life. For example, like the one in the logo on your window, sustain story. Such kind
Yeah.
of initiatives are still not being recognized by the government, and it's such a how do I say? It's quite difficult because that kind of policies will only be a law in books if they are not really touching the grassroots, the initiatives coming from young people, and any kind of particular project that brings a good impact on the environment. The issue is lots of people that are surrounding the policy making and environment in Indonesia is mostly coming from grown-ups, coming from older people. They do not really
True. It's true.
involve young people. They do not involve those who are being the present and the future generation. They do not really put their ear to rely, to listen to them, to know what they are going to do in next 10 to 15 years. What are the solutions that they are going to bring on? And what are the concerns of the young people regarding the environmental issue? And that is the reason why I think that their policies is not that how do I say?
Effective.
It's not that, yeah, effective enough because it doesn't touch to the grassroots.
I mean, to be fair, you said 15 years. I mean, I don't mind 15 years. Probably 5 years. It's not going to
Yeah,
work. Like, people tend to make policies, especially in the Indonesian government. They try to make policies that actually work quickly, but it only short-handed. Like, plan is like, oh, you know what? This period, we're gonna just do this policy. The other
yeah,
policies, we deal with it to other candidates, like other offices again. Like, it's not our business. 2050 is
exactly.
not our business. Our business now is like 2020 till 2025. What we should do? It's a short-term plan. Nobody think about the long-term ones, which is why I was intrigued with the fact that Michelle Wu actually made this in Boston, planning to 2050, and as cited in BostonGlobe.com that Boston City Council approved major emission cuts for large buildings. It is really interesting. The fact that she actually planned this ahead, like from her website, which called Michelle for Boston.com, and about the climate justice and all that, it is pretty clear that the policies that she made is actually for long-term ones. And meanwhile, we're seeing this Indonesian government, well, plan is like unstable and it's not for like the long-term ones. Yeah, I think it is really hard to put that actually a developed country try to, being the face of all that.
Yeah.
So, which brings me to this type of question. Does Western policies can be applied to the other states or can be applied to a country like Indonesia?
Oh wow, this is quite interesting actually because before I can say that it is possible or it is possible to be implemented in Indonesia or not, we have to acknowledge that there are lots of things that varies one country to another. Either it's socio-demographical factors or geographical factors like that, or the kind of societal, like how the society will react. That thing really affects on how such policy will be effective or not in the society. But what I think that in terms of like the current policies that are made in Boston, I think that it's a very good idea, and especially if that policy engage more with youth, with the young people, that would create an adverse impact, especially because like who are you going to rely on to implement such policies if
Right.
if it's not the young people? because like if young people have been heard, if their voices have been heard, if their demands have been taken into consideration in formulating policies, they will be very happy to implement such policy because they think that it comes from their own consideration. So I think that what we need to do is just to ensure that such kind of particular policies can be practicable in the society by engaging with the current generation who are going to hold the future generation. And I'm not saying that any kind of high ambition is quite utopic, but I think it's still possible for us to do it, although there will be much more challenge. But I think that young people are those generations, probably 15 to 24 or 26 years, living in that precarious situation, have faced many kind of uncertain situation. We have been facing pandemic and such, and we have adapted with such kind of things. So if it's about climate change, if it's about the environment, that it's about the entity that we are going to preserve for 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 years ahead, then it shall be we shall be capable for that because we already faced lots of uncertainties and we managed to do that. So I think that it's still possible to be implemented in many countries as long as they are having that kind of tight cooperation to ensure that these policies can be implemented optimally.
True. And yeah, I
God,
think
it's getting so serious.
I mean, yeah, we're chilling. Yeah, we took a fun time talking about, and plus it's about raising awareness. Like, you know, some people still say climate change doesn't exist. It's a big deal. It's not a big deal. But yeah, here we are. I mean, yeah, we have to actually raising a lot of these shenanigans. Like, it is important to us to recognize this kind of issue. Like, the earth is getting hot and hotter every year, and it's not year, it's like every day. Random climate change all suddenly, and boom, we have a cat in a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will be, perfect to actually implement that, especially because this mayor actually have this kind of plan back ahead of its time, like 2019, if she planned, if she actually got elected, and guess what? She actually got elected, and now she implement all of her, try to implement most of her policy to her office time. Yeah, even though it's only 4 year run, but yeah, I think she'll do great. And I hope that actually the Indonesian government can actually take notice to her plan and try to, probably adapt. I mean, you don't have to actually copy all of them, but just like think like, oh, I think we should do this. I think we should improve our policy like that because, it's developing country and the capital city itself is like tons of bunch of large buildings and apartments, and they got nothing to do with like carbon emission stuff. They should take actions too. It's not. I mean, it's technically it's not that hard, but it's going to be costly. Yeah, even though it's costly, but it is for the long-term plan. If you want to actually invest, yeah, that's the big deal. That's the big idea. Long-term means even though it's gonna be expensive a lot of stuff just to get a lot of stuff. That the sacrifice that investors, government, and people have made to make a proper future and comfortable living when they actually getting older. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I'm rich now. I can do anything I want. I want to build more buildings. I don't care as long as I build more buildings for my corporate. Yeah, that's the issue.
Well,
anyway, yeah, it's fun talking to you about this climate action stuff, shenanigans stuff, and bye. You'll probably have another session with us in the next episode of FT Shenanigans Podcast.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you, Lulu, for your time, and I hope that Glasgow do a lot well, especially we're going back. So yeah, Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Lovely way to spend my night.
Oh yeah, we're 5 hour differences. Yeah. It's still noon here, like it's like 1 p.m. now.
Wow, it's almost 7 now.
Wow. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Alright, be seeing you and till next time.
Bye-bye.
Energy Shenanigans Podcast will return for episode 2 with some new guests. Probably. Maybe. Or should I? Okay, thank you.